بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. Today's talk is for me and not for you. Hazrat Thanwi rahmatullahi alayhi used to say that whenever I find a problem within myself, then I would address others with it so that I can talk to myself with shame. And I could look at myself in the mirror and think, have you no shame that you advise other people and you do the same sin yourself? Or you're a victim of the same ill, the same sickness yourself? So today we're going to speak about another quality of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, something which I needed today, which was balance and iqtisad. As an ummah, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself in fact says, سَيَقُولُ السُّفَاءُ مِنَ النَّاسِ مَا وَلَّاهُمْ عَنْ قِبْلَتِهِمُ الَّتِي كَانُوا عَلَيْهَا. Then Allah says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. I made you a middlemost ummah. Middlemost meaning you, number one, you are the best, and number two, you are the ummah which is free from extremes. Our deen is free from extremes. Our deen is free from just worship, and our deen is free from just information. So for example, when we recite Surah Al-Fatiha, we recite اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Allah, take us on the path of those people whom you are happy with, whom you have bestowed your favors on, and not on those people al-maghdubi alayhim, who have incurred your anger, number one. ولا الضالين, not on those people who are astray. Ulama have asked this question, who are the maghdubi alayhim, who are the dhalleen? Who are the ones who have incurred Allah's anger? And number two, who are the ones who are astray? All the mufassirin write, okay? Al-maghdubi alayhim is not an exclusive group, but it includes the Jews of the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And al-dhalleen aren't an exclusive group, but include the Christians of the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the problem both religions had at that time was al-maghdubi alayhim. The Jews would read a lot. They had lots of information, lots and lots of knowledge, but no action, no amal, no worship. The Christians, on the other hand, had little knowledge, but lots of action. So they wanted to be pious, but they didn't know how to be pious. So in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes وَرَهْبَانِيَّةَ إِبْتَدَعُوهَا. They tried to create certain extra things in their religion to feel more pious. For example, if you were to come to the masjid tomorrow and say, right, I feel more pious today, I'm going to pray 6 rakats of zuhur rather than 4. Would you be commended? Would people say, mashallah, you're such a pious man? Would people say, you're going against the deen? You're going against the deen. Even though your intention might be commendable, because I want to be closer to Allah, but there's ways of doing it. You can't choose how to get closer to Allah. Allah tells you how to get closer to Him. So our deen has both knowledge and has both worship, and we bring them together. This is why we are the middlemost nation. We are free from extremism. We want to get rid of bid'at and innovations in our religion, but we want to maintain certain level of worship. And in Ramadan, especially in the last 10 days, something we can become victims of is burnout. Burnout meaning you try so much or you use so much of your time that you collapse. In the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, very famous hadith, 3 men came to Sayyidatina Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala. They didn't come to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself directly. They came to the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they met Sayyida Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, our mother. And they asked her, what are the actions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What does he do? What does he do? And she must have, given them some of the actions he did, mentioned it to them. And they thought, this is very little. And the way they understood this or justified his small actions was they thought, look, he's going to Jannah anyway, right? Because he's a prophet. So he can afford to do less. I don't have the same guarantee, so I have to do more. So all 3 of them made one promise each. One of them said, I will never marry and I will stay chaste my whole life. The other one said, I will never sleep, I will pray all night. And the third one said, I will not eat, I will fast my whole life. So they made 3 promises, extreme promises. They thought, again, their intention was commendable. They wanted to do something good. But Allah wanted to teach them that no, you don't have to go to extremes to fulfill these intentions. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after they've gone, he comes home. Aisha, I heard some people came, who are they? And she says, oh Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, 3 people came, these are the promises they made. They thought your actions, they were less, but they brought an explanation for it. And they wanted to do more. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam heard about their 3 promises, says, go and call them back. So one of the Sahaba must have called them back. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he sat them down and he said, hey, what's this? Inni atqakum lillah. I fear Allah the most. From all of you, I am the most fearful of Allah. And I am the closest to Allah from all of you. But I also marry. I also sleep at night. And I also eat. So your 3 promises don't make any sense. Because it goes against what I do. And then he said the famous words which we hear at every nikah time. Man raghiba an sunnati falaysa minni. If you turn away from my sunnah. Now from the outside, is that what it looked like? From the outside, it looks like these are really pious people. They are, they're worthy of praise. Rasulullah ﷺ says, "Man raghiba an sunnati." You're going to an extreme. You are free. My sunnah is free from your actions. If you turn away from my sunnah, falaysa minni, you can't say you're one of mine. You're not one of mine. If you turn away from my sunnah. One of the wives of Rasulullah ﷺ, Sayyidatina Zainab radiyallahu ta'ala, I believe. She used to pray long qiyamul layl, long tahajjud, to such an extent that at times if you've been to Masjid al-Nabawi, now the pillars have probably been spread apart, but there used to be pillars holding up the masjid, and in order for her to avoid falling over, she would tie a rope across the pillars. One pillar to another, there'd be a rope in the middle. Okay? And she would pray salah leaning onto the rope or holding the rope. So if she were to fall asleep, she wouldn't fall down. It's like a person praying his salah with a walking stick, making sure he doesn't fall down. Or leaning against a wall and praying salah. Rasulullah ﷺ heard about this. And he said, no, take away the rope. Only pray salah as long as you're active for salah. Don't burn yourself out to the extent that you have to hold on to things or lean against things to pray salah. This isn't the meaning of salah. In salah, you should know what you're reciting. You should be knowing what you're reciting. In another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, pray Quran as long as your heart is inside the Quran. The second your heart leaves the Quran, meaning the second you're just praying just to finish your parah, then stop. Because you're just rocking your head and you're tired, you don't know what you're doing. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, at that time, take a break. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us balance in worship. It doesn't mean we don't worship Allah at all. It means we worship, but we worship in a way that if I worship today, I can also worship tomorrow. An issue we have in Ramadan is we over-worship in Ramadan, meaning we reach such a peak that we can't maintain it. Ramadan is a gradual, we get better and better and better. This is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a hadith says, the best actions are the ones which are most consistent. وَإِن قَلَّ, even if those actions are small. So, the appeal we made that every night in Laylatul Qadr, nobody said give £100 a night. No, give £1 a night, but make it consistent. Give £1 a night. When you have standing orders or direct debits for charities, it's meant to be consistent. So give £1 a week, £5 a week, for example. It's about consistency in a'mal. It's not about completely burning yourself out. So this is Iqtisad, balance. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he even told the imams. I've told you this hadith. He told the imams. He says, "Man salla al-qawm falyukhaffif." If you lead the people in salah, falyukhaffif, keep the salah short. Because he knows there are people behind the imam who are going to get burnt out. Now if you want a 2-hour tarawih, then you go to Masjid Nabi, you get a 2 hours tarawih. When you have people who have shifts at 6 o'clock in the morning, when you have people who are working the whole day, and they don't sleep, and then after tarawih, they get a couple of hours, and after fajr, they get 3-4 hours. Having a 2-hour tarawih is going to be too long for them. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is teaching the ummah, he's giving us ta'aleem, he's saying, no, keep it short, look out for the people. Because if I do a 2-hour tarawih today, the masjid is going to be empty tomorrow. Naturally. If I do a 15-minute fajr, the masjid is going to be empty tomorrow. So I need to look out for my people. I need to make their hearts attached to the masjid. And the way you do it, unfortunately, the time has come now. Unfortunately, maybe it's not unfortunate, maybe this is just a reality that has been throughout the times, that we want to get more for less. So I want to do less worship but get more reward. And actually Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam promised us this, that we'll do 1/10 of what the Sahaba did, but in our time it's something worthy of celebration, because the expectation of the Sahaba was a lot more than the expectation than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has of us. our expectations are a lot less. So if we fulfill our fara'id, and then together we do some sunnah and nafil, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, will be happy with this. But it doesn't mean I just stick to fara'id. Fara'id are like, imagine we're being attacked by shaitan. Like in a visual like this. We're being attacked by shaitan. And we need protection. So, one layer of protection is we build a fort around us. This fort is our farad salah. The second layer of protection is you have a wall around the fort. And that wall is a sunnah. And the third is you have the wall of the city, which is also guarded by an army, and that is the nafil. When you have your farad, your sunnah and your nafil, shaitan is further away from you. When your nafil go, you are still under some sort of protection, but it's weaker. Shaitan comes in close. When you leave your sunnah, then shaitan then gets direct access to the fort. And when you leave your farad, then there's no protection at all. So depending on how distant we want to keep ourselves from shaitan, we need to make sure we do our farad, sunnah and nafil, but we don't burn ourselves out. Rasulullah ﷺ was a type where he used to enjoy fun and games as well. It comes in a hadith of Adul Mufrad that Rasulullah ﷺ and the Sahaba, they would take the peels of watermelons and they would throw them at each other. Just in jest, laughing at each other. Rasulullah ﷺ himself, the Sahaba used to say that we used to sit with Rasulullah ﷺ and he would speak to us about the days of Jahiliyyah, and when we would speak, he would join us. And he wouldn't say, Astaghfirullah, this is too much for my ears. Nabi ﷺ would sit there and he would, as long as it wasn't haram, Nabi ﷺ would sit there and he would speak with them. This is a balance in worship, a balance, when you're joking. When Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu ta'ala used to mention, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came home one day, and one of the wives of Aisha radiallahu, one of the wives of Rasulullah, one of the co-wives of Aisha, she had done something to Aisha radiallahu ta'ala. I think she had got some dessert or something and put it on the face of Aisha, just out of joke. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, go on and give it to her back. Give it back to her then. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a man of balance. But at the same time, you have a hadith where Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, actually, don't retaliate and don't react. Obviously, there's a time and a place. There's a time and a place. There's a way to do things. The problem is we don't look at times and places. And we want to have jokes inside the masjid. Jokes meaning inappropriate jokes inside the masjid. Or we want to be extra pious when the time is actually, you want to pray nafil salah. I remember one time Shaykh Yunus, rahmatullahi alayhi, our Shaykh Hanif was traveling with him. And somebody had stood up, mashallah, to pray his sunnahs and his nafils and everything with the 2 rakats of farad salah that you do whilst you're traveling. And then he finished. And Shaykh said to him that, what's this? If Allah wanted you to pray all these sunnats, nafils and everything with it, then He would have kept the farad salah as 4. But He made farad salah 2 because He knows you're in a rush, because you're rushing when you're traveling. So this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, make your farz into 2. If you have time for sunnah, meaning if you're a traveler in the way that you're staying somewhere for 4 or 5 days and you're a settled traveler, then you can do all of it. But when you're at a service station and you stopped midway through a journey, then you keep it fast, keep it quick. This is also why when we are traveling, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in these 2 rakats, when you're traveling, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us that when you pray for a salah, you pray with jamaat. When you're traveling and when you're at home. But sunnahs and nafils are to be done alone. And the reason why farz salah should be done together is so if the imam leads, everybody finishes with the imam. If permission was given for 5 of you to read your farz salah on your own, or to continue reading your sunnahs and your nafil, then one Sufi sahib is going to get up and pray 8 rakats of nafil salah when there's no need to pray 8, or he's going to pray his awabin after maghrib when everyone's in a rush because I haven't got home for iftar yet. He's going to get home and pray his awabin and everyone's there waiting. They've got nothing to break their fast with. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, actually just pray your farad and be done with. Because he understood the temperament of man. He knew that people are weak. خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. We are weak. Allah wants a certain amount from us, and if we do extra, great. But if we do so much that we then get burnt out, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like this. Allah doesn't want you to stay up all night and pray tahajjud. This is why Allah said, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that if you pray your Isha with Jamaat and your Fajr with Jamaat, you get rewarded for the whole night. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew in the summer in England, these people are going to try to be heroes. I don't think these people exist, but they might. They're going to try to stay up till Fajr, from Isha till Fajr, and they want to pray the same Salah, with the same wudu, that they use at Isha Salah, they don't use at Fajr Salah. Allah is trying to tell us that chill. You don't have to go that, it's not that extreme. Pray your Isha with Jamaat, your Fajr with Jamaat, pray a few rakats of tahajjud in the middle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you for the whole night. We are being taught balance. We are being taught Iqtisad. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa in a hadith says the best path to take is the middlemost path, Iqtisad. In Urdu we say Miyana Rawi, right in the middle. Right in the middle. And we can judge it. This bayan isn't an excuse for people to become lazy in their a'mal. Because I can imagine us going through a few youngsters' heads saying, yeah, watch. When mum makes you up and tells me to go to the masjid for Fajr, I'm going to say, I'm not going to pray it then. So I'm going to pray it at home instead. This isn't what Iqtisad is. Whatever the requirements of deen are, we must fulfill. The things additional to it, we should also fulfill. Making sure we don't burn ourselves out. Making sure we're not completely finished, for example. Like another example, you want to travel west. Now obviously when you go to the west, towards Canada, America, South America, etc., then the time moves backwards and your day will essentially get longer because you're moving back in time. If that's how you want to see it. So if you're traveling from here to America and the time zone is like a 7-8 hour difference, and you've started traveling in the morning and you go there and it's still the morning and you've got another long fast to keep. Fasting for 35 hours that's what Allah wants you to do. That's why Allah gave you permission not to fast when you're traveling. This is knowing where Allah has put the ease for you and using the ease. In a hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it said of him, Aisha says that whenever he was posed with two tasks, one was more difficult, azima, one was rukhsa. One was to go with something which is more difficult, and the other one was an ease. It was permissible, but it was an ease. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam always chose a permissible, easy path. He didn't choose an impermissible, easy path. Don't get it twisted. Both paths were permissible. One was hard, one was easy. He chose the easy path. This is what we are taught. Be balanced. Be balanced. So this is a bayan for me. If you benefited, well done. Okay, but this was for me especially because we take too much on in Ramadan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us and accept the efforts of all of us. But this is, alhamdulillah, there's a lot of fun in being involved. There's a lot of enjoyment in being of help to other people. But sometimes we need to look out for ourselves. This is what my father, when Sheikh Hanif used to book his programs, and people used to call him, my dad banned him and said, you can't do it anymore, because he would book himself in after Fajr, after Dhuhr, after Asr and after Isha. And we went to Cheltenham after Maghrib as well one day. And he said, what's this, man? This is burnout. You burn yourself out, you fall ill. And then when you burn yourself out, you fall ill, then you can't benefit. You can't benefit anybody then. Then you need people's help. An example, perfect example, about fasting. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went with the Sahaba for jihad. It was Ramadan. Most of the battles were in Ramadan. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told some of the Sahaba, you can fast, you don't have to fast. Some of the Sahaba fasted, some of them didn't fast. Some of those who fasted became so unwell, they fainted, they delayed the army. And the ones who were not fasting had to look after them and had to make all preparations for them. And then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Laysam minambir am siyam fim safar." This was a type of dialect that they used to use. Where instead of saying alif lam, you say alif mim. So instead of, let's say, al-qari'ah, you'd say qari'ah. It's another dialect of the Arabs. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, maybe the Sahaba who fasted were from that area of Arabia. So keeping in line with their dialect, he used their dialect and he spoke to them like this. Laysam minambir am siyam fi safar. That there's no extra piety in fasting whilst you're traveling. Because what you've done is you've delayed the people. And then that day Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, ذهب المفطرون بالأجر. All those who didn't fast have taken all the reward. All those who didn't fast have taken all the reward because they helped those who were fasting. Nabi Sallallahu taught us Iqtisad, he taught us balance. Because when you fall ill and you delay other people, then you're just becoming a nuisance. So Nabi Sallallahu, this is one of the greatest qualities he had. He knew how to be a man as well as a prophet. He knew how to be a man as well as a prophet. Where he didn't let his divine, the divine help that Allah gave him, this divine, ghiza, Allah he's the soul, the food of the soul that Allah gave him, which meant that he could stay up all night and he could worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't let this deflect him away from or distract him from his commitment to the people. And he said very clearly, when you want to do something yourself, then you act upon what's more. I've given this example before. You act on what's most difficult. When you're dealing with other people, create ease for them. This is balance. This keeps people closer to the deen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us people of balance. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from burnout in Ramadan. Now it doesn't mean we don't work hard in Ramadan. No, we still work hard in Ramadan. And we work harder than we usually work, of course. Just don't burn yourselves out. Okay, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our intentions, accept all our acts of worship, and let's work for this peak. Last night, who knows, last night could have been Laylatul Qadr. Tonight could be Laylatul Qadr. We have 9 nights left. Now, one thing I beg you for is do not waste these nights. We've had fun and games, we've had laughs and jokes, and we've had majalis, we've sat in places, and we've eaten all night, and we've gone away, and we've eaten out of town. Right, no problem, you want to do that before, fine. In these last 10 nights, everything goes. Stop everything. These last 10 nights are solely for Allah. They are not for yourself. They are for Allah. You give them to Allah. If you can't spend them in worship, don't spend them in sin. Imam Ghazali says, wasting time in Ramadan is like sinning. That's what it is. Because you have a time, you're in a gold mine and you're not taking anything out. You might as well not be in there. You're wasting your time. So what do you do? If I'm not worshipping, then I should be sleeping. Sleep. Nothing wrong with sleeping in the night. That's what the nights are made for. Sleep. But don't sit there and don't waste your time. Because these nights won't come again. I said before that having these nights or having the chance to worship in these nights is a blessing. If we abuse this blessing, Allah won't give it back to us. Remember that. Allah won't give it. He might give it back to you, meaning you get it next Ramadan. But He knows you abused it last year, He won't give the tawfiq to use it again next year properly. So let's not abuse it. Let's show Allah that we need Him in these nights. So spend them in worship. At least don't spend them in sin. At least don't spend them in sin. And create some sort of relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us ease in our religion. May Allah accept all our worships, all our ibadat. Give us the tawfiq and the divine opportunity to make the most of these nights, accept everything we do in these nights, and forgive all our shortcomings. Ameen. Wa akhir da'wana. And alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.